Yo, 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 what up, what up? We finally made it to our favorite time of the year. That moment when we all try to decide what the best album of the year was, or at least remember the releases that really made us happy in this beautiful year of 2025. Personally, I love going back to what I think is the best material of the year, re-listening to it and remembering exactly what I felt when I first heard those records. This year, more than ever before, we collectively suffered from the absolute horror of artists using AI slop to crank out those vomit-looking music videos they kept bragging about. We followed every twist in the Diddy investigations and unfortunately refreshed our knowledge of what baby oil is. We were all waiting on that new A$AP Rocky album and instead got two super nice surprises from A$AP Rock. We got a couple of new appearances on posthumous albums from Big L and Mac Miller, a new Mobb Deep release, verses from Trugoy the Dove on the new De La Soul project, and we all celebrated some explosive comebacks from old school legends like Slick Rick, Exhibit, Wu-Tang's, Raekwon and Ghostface, and some of the more newer school rappers like Joey Badass, Chance the Rapper, DJ Premier and Nas finally dropped the joint album we'd all been waiting for. Tyler, the Creator, dropped a new project. Lil Wayne seriously disappointed with his new Carter. The Alchemist is still in his full potential. And the whole alternative rap is also wide awake too. And I'm not even starting on the number of new artists we'd never even heard before this year. Getting ready for this year's rap top list, I scrolled through a ton of other lists, watched a bunch of videos, listened to almost 60 albums that came out this year, and almost lost my mind trying to decide which ones actually made the list. And I think this crazy amount of material was exactly my main mistake at first. I really wanted to cover literally everything that dropped in 2K25 and not miss a single thing. So in the end, I just decided to make my list. Not a perfect one, but the one that feels right to me. You'll see some old heads and underground rap weirdos in here and some relatively new names. So overall, it's more or less balanced. So alright, I think it's time to get this going. This list is going to be ranked, so we're going to be going from number 10 all the way up to number 1. But before we dive into the actual ranking, I want to quickly show you my list of honorable mentions, albums that were absolutely dope, but they still didn't make it to the top 10. So I guess that's it. Let's go! Number 10, Playboi Carti, Music. Yes, I said it. Kendrick's devil twin himself, Playboi Carti. And no, I'm not ashamed to put this album here. What can I say about Music? In the last 5 to 7 years, Playboi Carti got so insanely big that he's become this guy whose album every fan of the newer wave is waiting for. Since 2017, he dropped 3 super high quality releases in a row. The self-titled Playboi Carti, Die Lit, and Whole Lotta Red in 2017, 18, and 2020. On those albums, he proved himself to be that dude with an absolutely unique flow nobody can really copy. And at the same time, the rapper all the 2025 kids are also obsessed with. Back when I was a kid, we had to explain to our parents why 50 Cent is actually a cool guy. I'm pretty sure right now kids are doing the exact same thing, but with Playboi Carti. So Music was probably the most anticipated rap album of the last few years, and even though a lot of critics really didn't like it and said it didn't live up to the hype, it worked out for me. Why? Maybe because it's so unapologetically weird, a little insane, and definitely not perfect. I mean, come on, dropping a 30-track album that lasts more than an hour when your core audience's attention span is like 3 TikToks? That's a very not perfect idea. But we're from that generation where listening to MF Grimm's triple disc album is considered a normal Sunday. So going through Music wasn't that hard for me personally. And for the first time in my life, the feeling of something being half-baked actually gave me positive emotions. I really liked it. Yeah, you could say the album gets a little bit exhausting by the last third, but I fell in love with it because of its highlights. The absolutely crazy pop out, the track Evil Jordan, and Carti's total vocal chaos. On the album, his voice goes from full demon mode to Gollum to a squeaky mouse. Long story short, Playboi Carti, for whatever reason, really grabbed my attention this year, so I'm giving him the 10th spot. Number 9, De La Soul, Cabin in the Sky. De La Soul was a trio consisting of Pasta News, Maceo, and the late Trugoy the Dog, who during the golden era of hip-hop gave us a ridiculous amount of positive energy and emotions and saved us all from that non-stop gangster rap wave at the start of the 90s. Their discography runs 10 albums deep, and every single one of them left a mark on our hearts that will never fade. The hippie rap legends have been through a lot in recent years. Remember when their albums weren't available on streaming platforms because of the legal drama, or when Trugoy the Dove passed away. Despite all that, the guys didn't give up and decided to come back and delivered what I think is one of the best albums of the year. Cabin in the Sky starts with a classic element that always defined their work: skits. The first 3 minutes are basically a roll call hosted by Giancarlo Esposito. Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito, that guy who played Gustavo Fring in Breaking Bad. The perfect opening. Production-wise, you've got beats from the legends like DJ Premier and Pete Rock, and both of them came through with a very high level of quality. On top of that, the guest list is insane. Black Thought, Nas, Common, Slick Rick, Killer Mike. Absolute perfection. I genuinely can't imagine a better lineup for an album. And De La Soul themselves are back in shape. Same style, same conceptual vibe, same little joke in the verses, and most importantly, the same warm, soulful, harmonious atmosphere we love them for.
We for taking a knee for synergy reset. Check out the energy we get. The 3-man plan help you.
So for me, the 9th place is fully deserved. Alright, let's keep it moving. Number 8. JID, God Does Like Ugly. If you've never heard of him, he's from J. Cole's camp, signed to Dreamville Records, and he showed up on albums like Revenge of the Dreamers 3. JID is known for his absolutely killer albums, for instance the 2018 DiCaprio 2 and the 2022 The Forever Story, where he proved himself to be one of the most technical rappers out there. Someone who not only raps double time with wild rhyme schemes, but also knows how to write hooks that could be really remembered. And the crazy part is that he does it so casually, so effortlessly, that you're just like, how is this even possible?
Just from the east side on a Friday night, met a bunch of hoes at the Golden Glide, smoking and rolling the lows and highs.
But in 2025, you can't impress anyone with just the double time rapping. That's why JID to me feels like the next logical step after someone like Tech 9, but with a futuristic twist. His style is wildly diverse. Tons of different flows and rhythms that he constantly switches up. He also plays with the pronunciation of certain words, kind of like Kendrick or 21 Savage, when he says shticks instead of sticks. There's even a track where he raps and croons in Spanish. And his delivery is so clear that throughout the whole album it feels like he's whispering directly into your ear. The album title, God Does Like Ugly, comes from something his grandma said when they were talking about the tragic stuff that is constantly happening in our world, meaning like God lets this ugly shit happen. And that's the core theme here, accepting that the world is far from perfect. Autobiographical moments, street life, violence in America, and more and more and more. Production wise, it's fantastic. I liked almost every beat, every melody. There's a lot to chew on with this album, which is why God Does Like Ugly definitely deserves the 8th place on this list. And we're slowly getting to the heart of today's top list. And for this little intermezzo, I want to ask you, drop a comment with the albums you loved this year. And does my list overlap with yours so far? Alright, and now let's talk about probably the weirdest album on this whole list. And that is Bruiser Wolf's and Harry Fraud's album Made by Dope. And this album gets the 7th place. You're probably asking right now, who the hell is Bruiser Wolf? And why is he in the top 10 of the year? And the story goes like this. A friend of mine has been recommending him for a while, and I just kept putting it off. And when I finally got around to listen to this collab, I understood exactly why everyone kept pushing Bruiser Wolf my way. First of all, let's start with the producer. When I see the name Harry Fraud, I immediately hear La Música de Harry Fraud in my head and get transported back to those glory days when he was doing loads of beats for early Action Bronson, those carefree times of the Well Done album in 2011. And I really love the concept of one producer, one MC. And once again, that formula didn't disappoint. As for Bruiser Wolf himself, he is a friend of Danny Brown. They've been cool since the Bruiser Brigade era around 2012. And honestly, I don't even remember him standing out that much back then, but here it's an absolutely different thing. I don't even know where to start. Just listen to this little snippet of his flow and try to explain what the hell this even is.
The odds was against me. A lot of people don't get me. I bent the rules until they fit me. Liquor in my kidney.
Like, listen to his flow. I mean, this is an absolutely unique kind of flow that I've never heard anywhere. Okay, let's forget the flow for a second. What is this style of writing called? And the best thing since computers, Uber, and Slick Rick the Ruler. It's this totally unique delivery you won't hear anywhere else. Plus these super funny comparisons and punchlines where you just sit there like, how did he even come up with that? It's that 100% Kool Keith energy, like on that album with the burger on the cover. Absolute absurdity and sometimes nonsense, but somehow it's hilarious and fire at the same time. Bruiser Wolf even dropped another album this year, but Made by Dope was the one that really got me. Super high quality and a very unconventional record. Alright. We're going from Bruiser Wolf to the 6th and 5th places, two albums that both feature the same rapper. And let's start with number 6, and this is Armand Hammer's album Mercy. Who are actually Armand Hammer? They're a New York duo made up of Billy Woods and Elucid. And like some of you, I first really listened to them on the album Haram with the Alchemist. This year, the duo linked up back with Alchemist and made another album together. And if I'm honest, after the first few listens, I didn't completely love this album. And it's the same way I felt about Alfredo 2 by Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist. These are all albums that are obviously well produced, but the monotony in the delivery gets a little tiring at first. Unlike Alfredo 2 though, Mercy eventually won me over. In my subjective opinion, Alchemist's production here is a little weaker than on Haram, but still on a very high level. Very tailored to Billy Woods and Elucid style.
Asked if I would trade it all, like please be kind, rewind. We're not talking impossible matters. It's all shoots and ladders, the patterns never more apparent, glaring. Peace scatters after death stroke.
So in terms of sound, there's nothing major to complain about. But when it comes to the lyrics, this time I actually sat down and went track by track and realized just how underrated these guys are as writers. And the more you listen, the more layers open up. They're these masters of abstract rap. The first time you hear some of these lines, it just sounds like some random number of words. But with each listen, that randomness starts to fade away and take shape and turns into something really deep. There's social criticism in there, there's the clash between everyday life and the surreal, there's the topic of racism, there's absolutely everything.
Living like the streets is cobbled. Sit at the desk rolling trees. You would think I'm putting ships in a bottle. One seed is a mazel, two seeds I'm agreed, three we coming to rob you.
And it's really hard to sum up the whole album in one sentence. It's one of those you just have to listen to. And that brings us to the next record I want to talk about. The new solo album from Billy Woods. And this word I apparently am not allowed to pronounce. And honestly, while preparing for this video, I also didn't really know what the meaning of the word was. But you know, that's what I like about listening to music. You live and you learn. But let's get back to the album. Compared to Armand Hammer's record, Billy Woods' solo album is different in a few key ways. First of all, the horror vibe. You know, this record is absolutely bone-chilling.
Did I? But you forgot about the kid. Had to do him greasy like cold spare ribs in the sallow globe and open fridge. Every verse sharp at night like.
And it's not just in the production, which sounds nothing like what Alchemist did on Mercy, but also in the lyrics. His writing is still abstract, but here you can really track two main themes, childhood and horror. There's the track Star 87 with these terrifying phone sounds that make you feel like if you pick up the phone, some monster is gonna be on the other end. And then there's this absolutely genius track, Waterproof Mascara, that drumless instrumental with a crying woman that Preservation did.
Told us where she kept the passports in. Your king's dead and your uncles are not our friends. How many times I gotta tell you kids, it's us in this room.
No joke, this is a strong contender for the beat of the year, where Woods talks about domestic violence and creates the atmosphere of a full-on nightmare. As always, he talks about racism too, and even at one point he compares his own helplessness to the behavior of a stereotypical white woman. I also love the song Doll Full of Pins, where he symbolically references the doll that is on the album cover, and also probably a voodoo doll, a clear nod to the album title. While Yolanda Watson sings, it's all the same in the end, obviously hinting at death. Overall, it's an absolutely extraordinary album. There's nothing quite like even on this list. When it ended, I didn't feel like I just listened to an album. I felt like I watched a really well-made quality horror movie. That's why it earns the 5th spot on my list. And now, the 4th place, Open Mike Eagle, Neighborhood Gods Unlimited. This one really surprised me. Just a gorgeous album. Even before I pressed play, seeing the cover art that instantly reminded me of that canonical Q-Tip album cover, I already had a feeling that this was gonna be pure quality. Open Mike Eagle is this slightly nerdy, sometimes lo-fi conscious rap guy who tackles a bunch of everyday topics that matter to him.
Got that good shit, yeah I know. Apologies as indiscreet. Here's the code. I know God, that's my homegirl up the street. What you need? Show my.
From deep personal stories about his double life, working a regular job while chasing his dream of being a rapper, to totally mundane stuff like his phone falling, getting run over by a car, and him suddenly losing all his notes and consequently a piece of his creativity. Neighborhood Gods Unlimited is a very cohesive album, and you don't really want to listen to this album by tracks. It flows like a river, track by track, or like thick syrup. I really also like the uniform production. The beats sometimes change the tempo, but the atmosphere stays very consistent. Open Mike Eagle doesn't go crazy with technical flows or super complex rhyming schemes, but that's not what you want to hear from this guy anyway.
He ain't just whistling H-bomb. Say thank you to bass god. The villagers is blaming the race swap. Is venomous the privilege.
He raps, he sings a bit, and the lyrics really feel like a late night story time with your friends. Emotionally, you feel like this guy's getting closer to you with every track, and that's why this album absolutely deserves to be number 4 on this list. And now, drum roll, the top 3 rap albums of the year. And now we're gonna be talking about the contender of so many people and so many critics on the album of the year. It's Clip's album Let God Sort 'Em Out. Clips are this duo by the brothers Pusha T and No Malice from Virginia, the same guys who together with the Neptunes basically wrote the cocaine rap bible in 2000s with albums like Lord Willing and Hell Hath No Fury. Let God Sort 'Em Out is their big comeback after a long hiatus. What made this record the event of the year was its rollout. They did everything properly. Interviews with major media outlets and podcasts, a Genius Week, early listening sessions for select tracks at the Louis Vuitton house in Paris, and on top of that, a killer Tiny Desk concert on the release day. All of that sprinkled with drama. Def Jam trying to censor Kendrick's verse, the whole beef with Travis Scott, etc. Sound-wise, it's like a very high-quality version of Pharrell without Hugo, and Pharrell here is not trying to recreate Lord Willing or Hell Hath No Fury. It's a different, updated sound. But one thing hasn't changed. Pharrell's production is so mesmerizing, like always. Whether he's chopping Arabic samples or looping "This is culturally inappropriate," you will remember it. Lyrically, Let God Sort 'Em Out is the return of that pure real rap energy, in a sense that every verse feels like a little crossword puzzle full of coke metaphors, biblical references, and bold punchlines. Pusha T takes on the role of the radical evil, dissing everybody, talking street, coke and money. No Malice is his mirror, quoting the Bible, avoiding the explicit language, acting as his conscience. And of course, there are tons of disses. The crying Travis Scott, Playboy Cardi, Kanye, Jim Jones. You can catch these disses all over the record. In the end, Let God Sort 'Em Out is a triumphant return for Clips that absolutely deserves to be in the top 3 this year. For me, it's not just a cool comeback, it's one of the core albums that really shaped the rap landscape in 2025. And now, let's move on to the album that I personally probably listened to the most this year. That's the Live, Laugh, Love album by Earl Sweatshirt. Earl's that guy from the Odd Future camp with Tyler, the Creator, who never became as huge as Tyler, but is basically the most true to the craft rapper, the one every rap nerd respects. He's mentioned many times how big of an influence, for example, De La Soul were on him, who I already talked about earlier, and you can really feel that connection here. What blew me away about Live, Laugh, Love is that it sounds as fresh to me today as De La Soul sounded back then.
My peripherals decorated at me, you can't get away, cause I still can see you every day. I lace.
The album is only 24 minutes long, but the lyrics are so dense, so carefully thought through, that it feels like this album is an hour long. Every track is like 1 or 2 minutes, but each one is a whole experience. You rarely hear an album where the time is spaced out like that. Maybe Vince Staples is the closest comparison, since he also loves doing those 20-minute albums. The production is surgical, handled by Theravada, Navy Blue, Black Noise. Most of the beats have this lo-fi, slow-tempo atmosphere, and almost every one of them sticks with you for a long time. Lyrically, as the title suggests, Live, Laugh, Love is actually quite positive, which is a big shift from Earl's earlier career and earlier, darker projects. There are a lot of abstract comparisons, crazy punchlines hidden behind sports references or street slang. He also raps about his son and the experience of raising him, but overall, most of it is a very refined form of self-expression and represent songs. Honestly, I can't think of a single song here that was bad or even boring. I'm really looking forward to Earl's next project. He's one of the most relevant and interesting voices in the rap game for me right now. And finally, my favorite album of the year, the one I'd been waiting on forever this year and that actually lived up to my expectations, and it's Evidence's album Unlearning Volume 2. This is the second part in Evidence's Unlearning series. He handled most of the production himself but brought in the Alchemist, his colleague and friend, someone he openly admires and draws motivation from. While I was preparing this year's recap, I saw an Instagram reel where somebody put this album in the second place on their tier list, and the number of people in the comments hating, just absolutely shitting on this poor guy for putting Evidence above Clips was insane. At first, I stopped and thought, are they really right? Am I overrating this album? Maybe both. So I looked again at my own list, where Unlearning Volume 2 was sitting in number 1, and I was like, is it really that good? Or am I just biased? And in the end, I just decided, man, I don't even give a damn about those comments, so I'm just gonna put my own list up there. First, I've been considering Evidence as one of the best beat makers in the game right now, and I remember the first time I heard that 2019 brother Elise joined Secrets and Escapes, which was fully produced by Ev. I didn't know at the time who was behind the production, but when I checked the credits, it all clicked. This guy was just doing that absolutely incredible production.
Still grinding and groping, still crying it open, still divinely controlled in the honor of the moment. Been around the globe and always finding pieces.
Super creative sample choices, unusual decisions. Every beat is interesting on its own. Same story with Unlearning Volume 2. Whether Evidence produced it himself or someone else did, everything is so tasteful and top quality. Second, Evidence's delivery and flow, he calls himself Mr. Slow Flow, are so smooth and relaxed, but still so hard that when you go outside with this album in your headphones, you automatically lift your chin up and start walking in slow motion like you're the man.
Enough for making beats, I'm back to spitting.
This album just makes you feel like the coolest guy on earth. Don't quote me on that, sounds cringe, but I don't care. And third, his lyrics. Evidence has never been the super complex, metaphor kind of guy. His bars are relatively simple but insanely relatable. When I hear endless gangster stories about guns and drug dealing, I can't fully connect and relate to them. But when Evidence talks about growing every day, evolving, improving, working on himself, I instantly feel that surge of energy and motivation.
He's worthless. The goal is make a beat and write a couple verses in a day's work, shaking off a spell, reversing curses. God's transmission.
And yeah, for some people that might sound boring, but to me that's exactly what I want to hear sometimes. So yeah, I absolutely love this album, and I would argue it's on the same level as the first Unlearning part. So yeah, that's my list of rap albums of the year. I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What did I miss? And I'm 100% sure that I didn't include a bunch of amazing projects, but this year was just so good and so packed with rap that on the one hand, it makes you happy that hip-hop is thriving in 2025, and on the other hand, it's literally impossible to listen to everything and squeeze it into a tiny top 10 list. I wish you all a warm Christmas and a happy new year. I'll see you in 2026, and I really hope that hip-hop treats us just as well next year, or even better. So that's it from me. I'm out.